All right, welcome back. Yep. So we have a story. We have a super story to cover today. Let me see here. Where is it? Okay, I got it. I found it. All right. So yes, it's 1 and 2, unveiling the secret of what makes a man truly irresistible. So I'm going to be sharing some tips with my brothers today, but we're going to dissect and analyze the story first. Okay. The story of this guy's story. Do you guys believe that men do suffer silently sometimes too? Is there anybody here that doesn't believe that men suffer silently? A lot of times, not sometimes, a lot of times. Chinye said we can walk and chew gum at the same time. Absolutely. You cannot chew gum in my meetings in real life. If you're going to sing and talk, you have to spit the gum. You guys believe that men do suffer silently sometimes? Chinye said yes, they do. Chinye said they're humans. Oh, Chinye, they're humans. Yes, that's a fact. They are humans. Absolutely. So today, let's cover this story. I'm gonna read the story. I'm gonna read it first. I want to see your opinions, if you have any. Then I will analyze, and then I will give 5 tips for this brother to start with. These 5 tips are a good starting point. That's all it is. Okay. At the end of the day, even though we're getting to some specific stories here, this is still generalized opinions. All right. These stories are less than 1% of the actual things that happen. So take the advices, the opinions with a pinch of salt, but just know that you will still need real life support to navigate some of these problems because they are very complicated. Okay. Learned that from my music teacher from primary school. Believe it or not, people will come into my rehearsal and be spit it out. Personally, I actually don't like the sound of gum smacking in the mouth. It scratches my inside of my brain. Anyway, let's see here. How far did we go? Okay, we went well. All right, so let's get into the story. Silent suffering. I've been a silent viewer of your content for a while, and I think it's time I sign up for your coaching program. Go for it. As I clearly don't know what I'm doing, just as you always say. I'm writing to you from Toronto, Canada. I was born here to Nigerian immigrant parents, and I've lived here all my life. My wife, on the other hand, grew up in Nigeria until she was about 23. I thought I understood what it took to be a good husband, like my father, someone who is stable, reliable, and a rock for his family. But I've learned that these traits, while noble, can become your downfall when they aren't appreciated or respected. My wife and I met at a church youth event in our late 20s. She's beautiful, ambitious, and I fell for her hard. We got married a few years later. Things started out great. Our honeymoon phase lasted a bit longer than I expected, which only made me more certain I had found the woman of my dreams. Oh, but cracks began to show when my parents first came over from Nigeria to stay with us. They had retired a few years prior and sold their house where I grew up. I come from a close knit family, and my parents mean the world to me. But she's never liked them. I've tried everything, accommodating her feelings, arranging separate visits, which were quite expensive, even staying up nights talking through her concerns, but nothing ever worked. She doesn't take corrections well. She would argue that my parents were too intrusive or too judgmental. I didn't see it that way. I think they were just being parents and should be honored. But she resented them regardless of my efforts to bridge the gap. As if that wasn't enough, one of her uncles started to get involved. I've heard things, and I suspect aspects of our upbringing are responsible for this turmoil. My uncle, no, sorry, once mentioned, our uncles once mentioned that they act crazy on one side of her family. He revealed this during a conflict between him and my mother in law about 4 years ago. Anyway, her mother would call her and subtly, and sometimes not so subtly, hint that I should take a firmer stance with my parents for her sake. I wanted peace, so I often found myself bending over backward to appease everyone. It was like walking on eggshells daily. Joint finances were another minefield. I thought managing money together would bring us closer, but it felt more like a power struggle. She has always been a spender. New clothes, dinners out, gifts for her side of the family. She'd make big purchases without consulting me. When I tried to bring it up, it would turn into an argument about how I'm trying to control her and how I'm jealous of her independence. We're both working professionals, and yet I feel like I have no freedom to lead in our financial decisions. It got to a point where I started keeping quiet just to keep the peace. I bottled up my feelings, thinking I could endure it. But the silence became burdensome, and over time, it became harder to breathe. I wanted us to go for counseling. She has rejected all the counselors I suggested, including you. I don't collect. I think it's about not wanting any suggestions from me. She's afraid she might be judged. She'd accused me of picking a counselor who would be biased in my favor. My aunt ambushed us with a visit the other day, and she hated the whole thing, claiming she felt judged. I don't think I'm a jealous man, but she started accusing me of it whenever I brought up her increasingly flirtatious behavior. She'd stay out late, laughing and chatting with other men while I stood in the background. When I'd ask about it, she'd scoff and say I was just insecure and imagining things. Maybe I was, but I'd never felt this way before her. What really tore me apart was how she started competing with my sister, who lives across town. My sister and I have always been close. She's one of my best friends. But somehow my wife saw her as a threat. She'd make snide comments, criticize our career choices, and even dismiss my sister's attempts to be friendly. It was like nothing my sister did was ever right in her eyes. I feel stuck. If I stood up for my sister, I was being unsupportive of my wife. If I kept quiet, I was betraying my own family. Either way, I was losing. I feel trapped in this silent suffering. All I feel is emptiness. I'm done. I've done everything I can to be the man she said she wanted, but it seems I'll never be enough. I don't have a solution, and maybe that's the worst part. I just needed to talk to someone who might understand. How much do you charge for relationship counseling? Please reply. I need help. Sincerely, Tunde. Not Amino, Tunde. All right, so your turn. I'm going to take a short break. Okay, your turn. I want to hear your opinion about what you've heard thus far. What stands out for you, and what kind of advice would you give this young man? Keep in mind, you cannot advise the lady because she's not the one complaining. She's not present, at least not yet. So advise him, okay? Suffering silently, silent suffering. And I'll be right back. All right. Let's get into it. All right. So there are. I get it. Let me turn that down. I get it. My overall assessment of the whole thing is confusion. When a man is confused that way, of course, he will struggle to lead. You know, when a man is frustrated in that way, he will struggle to lead. Okay. When a man is hurt in that way, it's not necessarily the wife that hurts him, but he's hurt nonetheless, he will struggle to lead. Okay. When a man is walking on eggshells, anxiety, is panicking every time he's coming inside the house, he doesn't know what next is coming, he will struggle to lead. You guys agree? Yes? When a man, a whole man in his own right, when he feels helpless, he will struggle to lead. Okay? All of that and above and beyond, obviously, he will resent the whole thing, right? When a person is operating from a place of fear, he can't be himself. So, but guess who's going to be responsible for all of that? Guess who has to hold himself accountable? Can you guys hear me? Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Just put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. I know you guys want to hear my take on this, but just put a 1 in the chat so we can get going. Of course, he will be confused. Of course, he will struggle to lead. You might even be the best at work. Yeah? You might actually be the best at work. Thank you, Babes Wind. He might actually be the best at his professional job, but he will struggle to lead, right? Yeah. So the only thing I didn't see him talk about, he didn't talk about sex. So that's probably the least of his issues, right? But there's a good chance that sex has been tampered with. Their sex life has been tampered with as well. But let me get into it. Let's get into it. So I'm going to read and analyze line by line now. I've been the silent viewer of your content for a while, and I think it's time I sign up for your coaching program. I think it's a good idea. I think it's a fantastic idea. Because again, my assumption is that this is less than 1% of the story. Okay. So there are certain questions that I will ask that will definitely reveal more. Okay. So as I clearly don't know what I am doing, you're not alone. We've all been there. I'm writing to you from Toronto, Canada. I was born here, Nigerian immigrant parents. I've lived here all my life. My wife, on the other hand, grew up in Nigeria until she was about 23. Now, the fact that you grew up quite differently can create friction on its own. Just socialized in two different, distinctively two different ways. That's 23 years of a person's life. That's a lot to be raised completely differently while somebody had been raised completely differently in the abroad. That will create friction. And what should you do about that? You don't turn around and use that to shame your partner or shame each other. What you do about that is awareness. That means there's some things for you to learn. There's some risk that you must mitigate. Guess what most people do with this? They use it to shame each other. They use it to abuse each other. That's what they do. I thought I understood what it took to be a good husband. Like my father, someone who is stable, reliable, and a rock for his family. You thought, like you said, you thought, but I've learned that this trait, while noble, can become your downfall when they aren't appreciated or respected. No, that's not the reason why there's a downfall. The fact that you're a stable man, a honorable man, reliable man, a rock for your family is not the reason why you fell. It's not the reason why you're being disrespected. It could be your unrealistic expectations around those things, right? You might be feeling entitled because you consider yourself stable, reliable, and a rock for his family. You might be using languages like, I deserve a wife that will be a wife. You might be using languages like that. But obviously, there's a disconnect from your entitlement, what you think you deserve, and the results you are creating. So now we need to iron that out. We need to figure that out. Yeah. And part of being a man is being able to look at yourself square and say, hey, the result I'm creating is not what I like. It's not congruent with what I thought. So there's something to learn, right? It's a good angle to humility as opposed to thinking you're lowering yourself below your woman. I will never ask you to do that. It's pointless. You might have even learned that from some people and you've tried it and it's not working. The whole appeasing her feelings. Yeah, that part. That's still not going to work. Okay, because that's not addressing the actual issues. Anyway, my wife and I met at a church youth event in our late 20s. Yes, church people run into problems. You never knew? Oh, yes, they do. They run into problems all the time. She's beautiful, ambitious, and I fell for her hard. We got married a few years later. Things started out great, as it usually does, right? Our honeymoon phase lasted a bit longer than I expected, which only made me more certain I had found the woman of my dreams. Or so it was a setup affair. So their honeymoon was kind of like the honeymoon was extended period of time, and it ended up being a setup. Yeah. The longer it takes, the harder you're going to fall. But again, sorry. This is how it works for the rest of us. You will go through that phase. The honeymoon phase will disappear or will dwindle in and out. You start to question if you made the right decision. You will talk to some people on the internet. They will say, hey, did you vet right? Did you choose right? Why did you ask all these questions in the beginning? And then you look at them like, you probably won't. You probably will just be as confused. You will question yourself too. Like a normal human being, you'll be like, maybe I made the wrong choice. He said, but cracks began to show when my parents first came over from Nigeria to stay with us. They had retired a few years prior and sold the house where I grew up. Okay. So this is the part where a lot of people are not prepared for the cultural impact, for the impact of culture on marriage. A lot of people don't, even if you tell them, they can't comprehend it. But a lot of people are not prepared for the impact of that. And it's usually like you don't really have a choice, right? Because your parents are coming, they're going to stay. You could be the only person in town that they have to stay with, right? Well, to me, that's an automatic signal that that's not the issue. The issue is not the parents. Those are the easiest things to point fingers at when your marriage ends or is about to end or is struggling. But those are not the real issues. Those are just the symptoms of not knowing what you're doing, as you've rightfully pointed out in the beginning. Yeah. Because what are you going to do? The parents are going to come. They're going to come. So what else could you change? Good question. Let's keep going. I come from a close-knit family, and my parents mean the world to me. Now, from this statement alone, I smell problems. Now, on the surface value, of course, you come from a close-knit family. That's what a lot of people desire, right? Of course, your parents should mean the world to you, right? But when you have to express it in this manner with respect to all the issues that are going on, it tells me a lot more than we can see right now. Yeah. So that statement is pregnant. But she's never liked them. She's never liked them. What do you mean she's never liked them? Are you saying she married a man that she doesn't like his parents? Your choice. We can simplify it that way, or we can dig a little bit further. We can ask more questions. Why would a woman marry a person that she doesn't really like their parents? Now, that's real. I'm not saying it's not real, okay? For those people in the back, I'm not saying it's not real. That happens. But the point I'm making here is that there's more to that story. You might have been complacent, oblivious to the more to the story. Nonetheless, there's more to the story. She never liked your parents. Again, we have two choices here. We can simplify it, make it, no, not simplify it. That's condescending. We can make it that simple, right? Or we can ask more questions. She's never liked them just like that? Really? Yes, that's how I feel. Okay, your feelings are valid. Let's keep going. I've tried everything. Of course, you've tried everything. Accommodating her feelings, arranging separate visits, which were quite expensive, even staying up nights talking through her concerns, but nothing ever worked. Now, I believe everything that this man just said, up to the point where he said nothing ever worked. Okay, I actually believe him. Nothing out of everything he said is done has worked. Accommodating her feelings sounds like something you did from a place of resentfulness, right? But Ola, isn't that what you say? Kind of, sort of, but it's a little bit different, right? There is listening and understanding her feelings, and or at least empathy, or at least open to the idea that you could understand her feelings. And there is accommodating her feelings. Do you know the difference? Is there a difference? I mean, it doesn't sound different. I know this one might be a struggle. Let me try again. There is accommodating her feelings. You know, when you're accommodating the person, that person is inconvenient. It's what you're saying, essentially, right? Like, I don't have a choice, but I'm going to. No, actually, you have a choice. You can tell them to F their feelings and go somewhere, go back to their father's house. You do have that choice. Or you leave the house for them, one of the two, right? You have those choices. So we need to kind of act like we have options here. I need you to have a mindset that you actually have options, right? You have the options of attempting to understand where she's coming from, her feelings, her emotions, right? But you will struggle if you haven't taken the time to understand your own feelings first. If you haven't taken the time to understand that, number one, you're an emotional being like everybody else. You have emotions too, feelings that will need to be validated somehow, some way. Yes, you have that first. You need to process that first. That's emotional intelligence. That's when you can properly address other people's emotions. If you don't understand your own emotions and then understand it and process it, and you try to understand other people's emotions, it will backfire, because essentially you will be accommodating a feeling. You can try small, but it will burst open at some point, and that's not a pretty look. It's going to be nasty. Okay, because you have been bottling things up. It's going to confirm that in a minute here. So accommodating our feelings, maybe because I have bias, I already read the story, but that sounds like something that was done from a place of resentfulness. If there's a way you can accommodate our feelings and not come from a place of resentfulness, that's what I'm looking for. That's what you need to do. Okay, but that usually means you are aware that you have your own emotions, and at some point you will need to express that as well. Okay, you just also need to pay attention to timing. You need to pay attention to the soil that you're going to be sowing these seeds into. Make sure that they are fertile and they can receive it, and it can actually produce good fruit. Anyway, let's keep going. The next thing he said is done is arranging separate visits, which were quite expensive. Again, inconvenient. You're doing inconvenient stuff that eventually you're going to resent. Okay, so they can solve the problem temporarily, but eventually you're going to bottle up a ton of resentments, and it's not going to be a pretty look. Even staying up nights talking through her talking through our concerns. Now, that sounds like a lot of talking. Maybe you meant you were listening. I hope you meant you were doing a lot of listening, but highly unlikely, because you probably got caught up in your emotions too, right? You probably are trying to, like, no, but you're wrong. This is how it is done. That's probably what that conversation looked like. He's going to confirm that in a second here. She doesn't take corrections well. Okay, so let's rewind back. So it sounds like a lot of the talking through her concerns might have involved a lot of criticism, corrections, right? What's wrong with corrections? I know. Me too. I used to ask the same question. What's wrong with corrections? Yeah.
You doing what?
Yeah, I used to ask the same question. What's wrong with corrections? Ladies, what's wrong with corrections? Hey, Joe, tell us, what is wrong with corrections? Right? It's a good question. I used to ask the question, what's wrong with corrections? You know, but it's not the correction. We'll talk more about that. Let's just hang tight. It's a good question. Hang tight. She doesn't take corrections well. She would argue that my parents were too intrusive or too judgmental. Okay. When she says that, she's expressing feelings, emotions, right? The feelings and emotions you've been trying to accommodate that hasn't worked. But what she's saying is those are expressing of feelings. When somebody is expressing feelings, it potentially creates an opportunity to ask more questions, right? Or unless, of course, you're close-minded, like most of us in the beginning. Okay. I didn't see it that way. Of course, you didn't see it that way. You didn't see it that way because you were correct and you needed to correct her. You didn't see it that way. Of course. I think they were just being parents and should be honored. Yes, that's exactly how I felt. I would even say that with my own story, you can see it in the book, right? I would even say that about my own mother-in-law because sometimes they will get into it. My wife and my mother-in-law, like, let mommy be mommy, and she didn't like that when I said that. She like, no, 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 like, stop. Like, she felt like I was taking sides. I'm like, wait, that's your mother. She's disconnected from that. It doesn't matter, right? Women in general, this is a big problem, gentlemen. This is something that's very hard for us to comprehend. Women, they hate the feeling that you are taking sides with another person. Yes, even including their own children. Okay, they can't stand it. Sometimes they won't say the same way I just said it, but they know what they felt, and that's what you're fighting oftentimes, and you think you're fighting logic. I know you thought you were fighting logic, but you're fighting something. You're fighting forces behind the scenes, right? You're not fighting flesh ever. Always remember that you're never fighting flesh. Let's keep going. I didn't see it that way. I think they were just being parents and should be honored. But she resented them regardless of my efforts to bridge the gap. She probably didn't exactly resent them. She resented the idea that you were taking sides with them. That's naturally will make you feel like she resents them because she doesn't know how to, oftentimes, she doesn't know how to express that. She would talk too much and then would come off as she hates your parents. And ladies, that's the worst thing you can do to a man, to come off as you hate his parents. Again, it's going to backfire in multiple different ways. You guys will just be confused. Potentially, you might end up in divorce court. Why? Just because of parents? It's just one of the many things. Remember, the core behavior is not being able to see eye to eye, not having enough social emotional intelligence to process some of these issues. This same thing will happen in other forms. It's just easy to point fingers at finances, in-laws, sisters, your mouth smell. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. Those are just the easy things to point fingers at. But the core issues will repeat themselves in multiple different ways. So, hence, divorce court for a lot of people. That's when they say irreconcilable differences. Okay? But she resented them regardless of my efforts to bridge the gap. That's also him expressing how he feels. That's he feels that she resents his parents. As if that wasn't enough, one of her own uncles, started to get involved. I've heard things, and I suspect aspects of our upbringing are responsible for this turmoil. It's too late to bring up anything about somebody's upbringing. First of all, you're not their therapist, and you should not be playing one. Okay, you're having sex with them. You can't be playing therapist and be having sex with her at the same time. That doesn't make any sense. Or being the correctional officer at the same time. It doesn't make sense. Let me rewind. Okay, let's go back to the correction thing. Being the correctional officer in your relationship and being the therapist and then having sex with them at the same time, it never works. Write this down for the rest of your life. Okay, it cannot work. There's a way you can make it work. I'll get to that in the tips. But you need skills around this, okay? And it's going to test your core, okay? Because you might end up arguing with your destiny when I tell you the skills. Hold on one second. Okay, all right, let's keep going. So, uncle, her own uncle, has basically been telling on themselves, talking about their family. But again, anything that happened in her past in the form of trauma or anything that really, really deep spiritual stuff, that's none, it's too late. That's none of your business. You will just destroy, you will shoot yourself on the legs. Okay, because especially if somebody is coming from Africa, there's more than enough things you can blame, more than enough things you can point fingers at. I say that's the witchcraft. Oh yeah, there's so many activities going on that you can point. You will shoot yourself on the leg. You will create more of what you want to see, and there will be more than enough pastors and wolis and prophets that will help you expand it legitimately. Yes, because after all, you've engaged it. Why not? It's like, why not? Right? So it's none of your business what happened to their family once upon a time. Maybe they used to do things like that. Their forefather used to be a babalawo. Don't do that to yourself. Okay, before you count 2 or 3, 4 generations, if you're a true Nigerian, you will find something that you will use to shoot yourself more on the legs. Don't do that to yourself. You chose to marry that person. There was some kind of value you saw in that person when you married them. And your inability to be able to focus on that right now is part of the issues. Granted, it's easier said than done, especially if they're being offensive, things like they're spending money and they're spending all this money and you don't feel like a leader in your own household. I get it. But let's keep going. As you can see, these problems are thick. Our uncle once mentioned that they act crazy on one side of our family. So the uncle conveniently said only one side of the family acts crazy. Every family has dysfunction. Get it in your skull. Every family has dysfunction in one shape, form, or the other. There's a worry in every family, maybe a couple, including your own family. Don't deceive yourself. Anyway, let's keep going. He revealed this during the conflict. Of course, he revealed it during the conflict. He revealed it during the conflict between him and my mother-in-law about 4 years ago. So they were airing their dirty laundry in public. So you heard it. So you held on to it. And now you think your wife is just as crazy as that one side of the family. Oh, God help me.
Juju be that?
That's witchcraft. It doesn't get any better than that. That's witchcraft. That's it right there. That's how effective witchcraft are. If you ever wonder how witchcraft operates, that's it. It creates problems between loved ones. Okay. You don't have to look for extra floating stuff. No, that's it right there. That's how witchcraft attacks people's families. We are our own worst enemy. It uses us. Anyway, let's keep going. How far are we? So uncle, we're talking about uncle now, right? So uncle was running his mouth, of course. He revealed this during the conflict between him and my mother-in-law about 4 years ago. Anyway, our mother would call her and subtly, and sometimes not so subtly, hint that I should take a firmer stance with my parents for her sake. So yes, some in-laws will do that. Gentlemen, this is not energy you want to engage, especially if she's also a woman, okay? She's the mother. She's probably trying to protect her own child in the way she knows how to. Quite incompetent, I might add. But don't engage. Don't waste your time on that. You can never correct that. Oh, let me guess. You're trying to be a correctional officer on this one too. Of course, she's trying to. If you don't listen, if you're so confused and you're feeling all these different emotions, confusion, frustration, hurt, right? Not being able to lead in your family, anxiety, you can't lead. All the women in your life will attempt to help you lead. Yeah. Including your own mother. Yeah, because they don't like to see the picture of a man who is not her. You ever see women sympathize with women before? They are the worst enabler ever. Even me here, when I'm doing correctional officer my own here, sometimes they won't let me correct in peace. Like, you should know too. I meant to also go through. We know, sympathizers. So, in that same token, yes, your mother, in the form of sympathizing, she will come there and attempt to help you, right? They will poke their nose into your matters as the issue. You don't want to engage that. Just leave that as what it is. Everybody will get caught up in their emotions. It's just what it is. If you engage your own emotions, then it becomes basketballs. Then you become confused. Then you feel stuck in the middle. Let's keep going. I wanted peace, so I often found myself bending over backward to appease everyone. It was like walking on eggshells daily. Yeah, I'm sorry, but again, you can't lead in that space. You're not a leader in that space. So it makes sense that you're walking around on eggshells. It makes sense. You wanted peace, so you start walking on eggshells. So you are bending over backward when you can also say enough. You don't have to say anything perfect, by the way. You can just say enough. I'll talk to you later. Hang up. Oh my, you are disrespectful. They will be all right. Okay. Especially if your own mental health is being tampered with in that moment. You can't help anyway. You can't lead from that space of emotional turmoil anyway. Let it be. Relax. Be polite as much as you can. But they will probably still interpret it as it's not going to be enough. They will say you were disrespectful. It is what it is. But don't engage them in that. You have been engaging them with arguments. That's what created this. That's the point. You wanted peace, but you don't want peace at the same time. You want violence. See, I can read between the lines. Let's keep going. Joint finances were another minefield. I thought managing money together would bring us closer, but it felt more like a power struggle. She has always been a spender. New clothes, dinners out, gift for her side of the family. Now, here's something key that he said. She has always been a spender. Okay, always is exaggeration, but also if that feeling is also just as valid. If you know that you've known this person to be this way, right? So we're not going to pretend like that's new. Now, should you continue to endure it? No, of course not. But there are ways to have conversation. There are ways to foster the what you want, how you would like it to look like, right? But you have to be calm enough to be able to create that solution. You cannot get caught up in your emotions or engage correctional police officer mode and think you're going to get anything good out of it. You're not going to get anything good out of it. You're going to come off as judgmental. Oh, judgmental. Yes, you're going to come off as judgmental. She's not going to hear you before she shuts you down because she already assumes you're about to judge again. No, she's not hearing it for the first time. She knows also that she's a spender. No, also you're correct. She should correct that as an adult, right? You're right. She should correct it as an adult.
You're right.
But guess what adults do when they get caught up in their emotions?
You doing what?
Correcting? No. Including you. When you get caught up in your emotions, you do all the wrong things. Okay? Is it intentional? It's up to you. I don't know what you want to call it. But there are emotions at play here. That's the point. Okay? And that's why emotional intelligence is required. You can't just use most people's idea of common sense. Because I like common sense, but 9 out of 10 people, when they say common sense, I'm like, Jesus, Lord help me. God have mercy upon us. Anyway, I wanted peace, but I wanted violence at the same time. So joint finance has always been a spender. She'd make big purchases without consulting me. That's bad behavior, right? But we want to go beyond just acknowledging or identify it as bad behavior. How do we fix it is what we're talking about. When I try to bring it up, it will turn into an argument, right? We already know that, about how I'm trying to control her and how I'm jealous of her independence. Once your woman starts calling you jealous, and it's even worse if she has been calling you jealous behind your back. She has never really called you to your face. Baba, you don't have one chance, so it's gonna get bad because you can't fix what you don't know. But at least she called you jealous to your face. At least, so we can fix it. We know what we're working with, right? We're both working professionals, and yet I feel like I have no freedom to lead in our financial decisions. You cannot wait for freedom to lead. It's either you're a leader or you're not a leader. It's okay if you're too weak to lead. At least we need to acknowledge that so we can move beyond that, right? But it's either you're a leader and my job, my goal is to help you become the leader that I know you are. Because at least you're asking questions. And that's one of the things that leaders will do. They would ask questions, they will ask for help. Fake ass leaders will act like they know everything. So they won't do anything until everything collapses completely to the point of no return. Right? Why? Because they know everything there is to know. They're close-minded. Anyway, so let's keep going here. So you've been called jealousy. Okay. We're both working professionals, and yet I feel like I have no freedom. Okay. It got to a point where I started keeping quiet just to keep the peace. That's a terrible idea. Keeping quiet is not the same thing as when the book says silence is golden. That's not the same thing as active listening. Okay. That's not the same thing as listening, period. I'm keeping quiet to keep the peace. That means you lost the battle. You feel like you lost a battle. So you're being quiet and you're resenting actively in the same space. You cannot resent actively and be listening actively. You can't operate in the same place. I understand you've heard people say, Suru laughing so-called brain. You might even call it, you were just being patient. You might even confuse the two together. But no, you went quiet to keep the peace. So the issues were never resolved. They will come back to the surface again. I bottled up my feelings, exactly, thinking I could endure it, but the silence became burdensome, and over time, it became harder to breathe, of course. I wanted us to go to counseling. She has rejected all the counselors I suggested, including you. I think it's about not wanting any suggestions from me. She's afraid she might be judged. That is a real fear of a lot of women, especially if they were raised in Nigeria and they saw women being mistreated. And if you bring anything to the table that look anything remotely traditional, they might push against it. Yes. The same way men might push against the idea of therapy sometimes. Many a times. All right. Okay, we're doing well with time. Okay. I think so. I think we can fly through the tips. Okay. So she's afraid she might be judged. She's accused me of picking a counselor. She'd accuse me of picking a counselor who would be biased in my favor. My aunt ambushed us with a visit the other day, and she hated the whole thing, claiming she felt judged. I don't think I'm a jealous man. You don't think? Well, somebody else thinks different, right? So who is right? I think you're right because you're the one talking now.
You're right.
But it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Let's keep going. But she started accusing me of jealousy whenever I brought up our increasingly flirtatious behavior. She'd stay out late, laughing and chatting with other men while I stood in the ground. There are women that flirt, like they're very flirty like that. They have the flirty thing going on. There are women like that. But it could also be a situation where you already feel you don't feel a connection. So anything that looks like a connection outside of you will make you feel some type of way. There's nothing wrong with you, but know that there's a reason why she's calling you jealous. That's all. When I ask about it, she'd scoff and say I was just insecure and imagining things. Maybe I was. Okay, so you admit maybe you were imagining things, but I never felt this way before her. Well, that's attraction actively working like that against you. But let's keep going. What really tore me apart was how she started competing with my sister, who lives across town. My sister and I have always been close. She's one of my best friends, but somehow my wife saw her as a threat. So it seems like she's seen a lot of things as a threat, right? She's on the defense a lot with anything that has to do with your family or maybe your ability to lead. There's one core thing here that I can see here. She does not have respect for you. She struggles to accord you respect. But you're not making things easier with all of this, right? But let's keep going. She, outside of just, of course, talking to me now, she'd make snide comments, criticize our career choices, that's sister's career choices, and even dismiss my sister's attempts to be friendly. It was like nothing my sister did was ever right in our eyes. I feel stuck. Again, this issue is not about your sister. This issue is not about your parents or the finances, because we can solve that one easily. It's about an active division between you and your wife, and the way you're handling it is like your life has ended, right? That's at least the tone I'm getting here. And it makes sense because, again, you're the one that's also bending over backwards and you're talking your own feelings to appease another human being, thinking somehow that will be sustainable. Of course, that will not be sustainable. Of course not. Because you're still a human being. You too, you're somebody's son now, right? So if I stood up for my sister, I was being unsupportive of my wife. If I kept quiet, I was betraying my own family. Why do you have to do any of the two? I don't understand. Why is that any of that your priority? And when you say my own family, what do you mean? The family you created or the one you came from? You have to have some priorities. You have to have some self-respect here. It's key. Again, people will mimic the level of self-respect you have for yourself, right? At least in the long run. In the short term, people can test you, but you can also put them in their place if they do the wrong thing, right? So let's keep going. Either way, I was losing. I feel trapped in this silent suffering. All I feel is emptiness. I've done everything I can to be the man she said she wanted, but it seems I'll never be enough. Here's something I'll be interested in. What is the man she said she wanted? I want to hear more about that, right? So we can help you understand that, because sometimes the understanding is discombobulated, right? What is the man she said she wanted? Did you fully understand what that is? Or your own idea was a stable man, honorable man? What was your father? Let me go back and read that part. He said his father was stable, reliable, and a rock for his family. Is that what she wanted? Is that what she said she wanted? No. Many women will tell you what they want. They want a Jesus baby freak. No, not freak. They want a Jesus baby. They want a God-fearing man. They want tall, dark, handsome, right? Is that really what you're working with here? Right? What is the man that she said she wanted? Did you take your time to fully understand that? If you didn't, you're not alone. We all made the same mistake. So calm down. Stop beating yourself up so badly. Okay? Calm down. Relax. Okay? But there's a good chance you have no idea the kind of man that she said she wanted. Okay? And obviously, you probably are not showing up as that man. Now, let me leave a little bit of room. Let me take a deep breath here. Could your woman just be the evil kind that you mistakenly married and you shouldn't have married in the first place? Yes. There's only one thing you should do with that person. Please let them go. Divorce her. Let it go. Let's keep the conversation that simple. Let it go. But if there's more to it, I suspect there's more to it. I suspect you love her. Remember how you described her in the beginning. Let me go back here. This guy, she's beautiful. She is. You won't say she was. She is beautiful, ambitious, and I fell hard. Okay, I fell hard. Right? That part, right? I want to hear more about that. Right? No, don't worry. We'll address all our bad behavior, but I also want to hear about all those things too. So I feel trapped in this silent suffering, or like, okay, emptiness. Okay, I don't have a solution, and maybe the worst part, I just need to talk to someone who might understand. How much do you charge for relationship counseling? Right now, we do have a promo going on that we're charging $1,000 for 12 months of coaching, and if you prefer a payment plan, $100 per month for 12 months, or $1,000 prepaid for the 1 year, or if you just want an hour, it's $200. So we do have that promo going on right now. Let's see. Let me come to the chat. Anybody said anything so far? What do you guys think? Any pushback? Anything? Mario says the wife sounds isolated. That's a good possibility, absolutely, because she's fighting all those people, obviously. Also, she was 23 when she came, and he's lived here all his life, so he probably has most of his friends around. But then they've been married for a few years. She probably has her own friend too, but that's a very good possibility. A lot of people will feel that. Black Diamond said, this man sounds like he's smothering her. Clinginess is unattractive. That's a good point. Thank you for yielding back to the topic. The topic today is unveiling the secret of what makes a man truly irresistible to a man. Clearly, this woman is resisting him hard. She's resisting everything about him. So I want to share 5 shocking ways to become unforgettable to your woman. Black Diamond can help me. Okay. I'm just gonna fly through them because I run out of time already. So allow me to fly through them, and then if you see anything interesting, we can reiterate and re-emphasize if we need to. But the first tip that I have for this, I already gave a ton of tips already in the analysis. But the first tip is obviously to transform is silence to presence. Being present is not the same thing as being silent. Just because you're silent doesn't mean you're present. If you're not present, you can't love. You can't be a good lover if you can't be present. When you say you go silent, are you being dismissive? Are you running from your problems? I understand it can be difficult because if you end up with a wife that also knows how to hit you properly below the belt with her words, yes, you might feel the need to shut down, and you're angry now. You've given up. You're giving up your responsibility as a man. Never do that. And obviously, that's not attractive either. So if you want to become irresistible to your woman, presence. She needs to feel it. It's not hearing it. She needs to feel your presence. When you enter the door, she knows you've entered the house. She knows everything just feels safe and secure when you enter her environment. She just knows, and she can't wait. What does that look like? Yeah, there's a lot I just said there. It's a lot I just said. So instead of going quiet and bottling up your emotions like a toddler, in the name of you want to keep the peace, how about focus on being present? It's another way of saying active listening. Okay, focus on your skill around being present. All right, that silence will feel like a void, will feel like you're being dismissive. It will create distance. I guess that's what that pushback that person was having on my book review yesterday, when they said, oh, distance makes the heart fonder. That's if there's fond already, a story. But you can create distance with silence. Okay, silence is golden, but please, if it means that you're dismissive, it's probably going to backfire. Okay, so instead you want to replace that with mindful engagement. You want to engage her. You want to instead of running from your problem actively, instead you want to say, tell me more. What else do you want us to address, babe? What else do you want us to address? Wait, what's all that? That's on Africa. Listen to me, okay? Let's get back to the story. See that story? That story is a very toxic story, and that's only less than 1% of what's already going on. Okay, sounds like you don't want to lose your wife. You don't want to lose your wife? Listen to me, okay? You'll be able to express yourself. Trust me, the time is coming when you can express yourself. All right? So the idea here is not to bottle your emotions. That's what I'm pushing against. What I'm saying is be present. Understand what you're speaking to. Understand the problem you're trying to solve before you start to open your mouth and do corrections. So replace that silence, the silent treatment. That's how it starts. Replace that with your presence. Tell me more. What else is going on that you want us to talk about? Okay, all right. We will address them. Okay, we'll address them. Okay, tell me more. No, that's it. You even before you say that the second time, she will even read you. She will, because she knows you better. She knows normally you shut her down before she talks. She knows you. But now she's confused. If anything, she's like very confused. Like, tell you more. What do you mean more? That's the issue. Okay, all right, babe. We can address these issues, but let me just speak from here. Take your time. You don't have to be in a rush. You don't have to have all the answers. Okay, it's really the presence that matters. It's really the vibes that matters. It's the emotions that you're creating that matters. Yeah, either you know it or not, you are creating emotions. You might not know it. You might not be doing it intentionally, but you might be creating chaos. The chaos that you're experiencing, you might be creating it. How do I know? Because I know you've been arguing actively with her. Because I can just correct that. No, I know you have been arguing with her. So of course she will have a hard time respecting you. She can't respect you. She cannot be attracted to you if you are actively arguing with your lady. Me too, I don't want anyway. Exactly. Thanks for proving my point. Anyway, let's go to number 2. Reframe corrections with value. Correction, you're right. There's nothing wrong with corrections. But I'm trying to think of there's a hyperbole that's coming to me, some kind of proverb that's coming to me that I want to use to explain, but it's not registering properly. But anyway, reframe corrections with value. Heart being the beholder. When you say value, not what's valuable to you. We're talking emotions now, right? We're not talking about what's valuable to you. What is valuable to her? What is she looking for? Like somebody just pointed out right now. Again, we won't know until we actually address you personally. But it could be she feels isolated, right? If she feels isolated, what will be valuable to her, right? What will be reassuring her that no, we are all family. And how are you going to do that? If there's been damage, it's going to take you a while to rebuild that trust, that she can trust you, that she can trust you and your family, right? What is the actual issues going on behind the scenes that's making her so defensive about you and your family? If you want to address the surface stuff, you will continue to perpetuate the problem. You will just be moving, you'll be arguing with your destiny back and forth. Those arguments will create real life damages, but you will never get to the real issues. Why? Because you were correcting. Because we should be on, our parents should be honored, and that's it, and that's it, and that's it, and nothing should be said outside of that. Is it that simple? If it was that simple, you would have figured it out. It's not that simple, obviously, right? So that's why you're struggling, because you're stuck on bullshit. Okay. Yes, you can correct, but you have to be able to sandwich your correction, start, lead it, end it with value. Okay. When I say value, what is it that she values? What is it that she's complaining the most about? How can you replace that pain with pleasure? If people are not gravitating away from pain or towards pleasure, don't expect them to change their behavior. That's unrealistic expectations of human beings, period. Human beings should just do better. Okay, are you God? Because human beings are going to be human beings. Again, I'm sharing this with you because you're the one telling the story. I'm sure, trust me, I know your wife is not perfect. Just trust me when I say that. She's not perfect, okay? She's not show you shaggy for sure. But if you continue to act like a victim, it's not in a romantic relationship, it's not going to get better, okay? I need to first of all get you empowered. Understand that you actually have powers that you have not tapped into yet. You've been giving your power away with all those arguments. All right, let's go to tip number 3. We don't like to do assumptions. Assumptions are your enemy. Assumptions are easy, they're enticing, they're distractions, but they're also super easy and they make common sense. Replace assumptions with your best case scenario. You're going to naturally assume the worst case scenarios from your worst of the worst experience you've had. You will predict it. You don't have to say it. She can smell it. That's why she gets defensive up front. You're assuming motives. Okay. You're assuming you think you know what's going on because they're crazy on one side of their family. You know, you're assuming, obviously, because you've experienced that spending all this money, you're making assumptions that you're tired, you've given up, there's nothing else, you could never be a good man for this woman. That's actually not true. Okay. It's actually more likely that you have a better chance. Okay, that's only if you're open to learning. You have a better chance of being the man she wants than anybody else outside. The grass might seem greener for her on the outside, but trust me, because of the history, because of the good times, because we all tend to reflect into the past with rose gold color lens, right? You have a better chance because everybody else outside, if you know what you're doing, everybody else outside will struggle to compete with you, especially if you have children. All right, so Instead of making an assumption that she's always flirt or anything like that, or coming off as you're making assumptions to the extent where she'll be calling you insecure, all that kind of stuff. Again, you can change a lot of that. Okay. So for example, there's a quick example, right? Let's say she's flirting with people in your opinion. Opinions are like an asshole. You're fine with your opinion. But let's say your opinion, you feel like she's too friendly. Friendly. She's too friendly with other men out there, and she's like, what's funny? What's funny? Right? So instead of you saying, who is that guy you were flirting with? Even if you have to come sneakily, because remember you're walking on eggshell, so you probably can't even confront her like that. It will still come off as confrontational, by the way. But you go to her, you sneakily say, so who was that guy you were flirting with earlier? She's like, flirting? What do you feel? I beg that. What do you mean by flirting? Instead of saying stuff like that, if I were you, I would say, who is that butt ugly guy? That's what I would say. And then she was like, what butt? What do you mean? But who's butt ugly? Who's that butt ugly guy? The one you were talking to yesterday. Butt ugly. You're jealous. Oh, I'm jealous. You think I'm jealous? I beg, answer me. Who's that butt ugly guy outside? Jealous of it. How would that be ugly of that one? She's not used to that. She's not used to you coming off that way. You've been walking on eggshells, right? You've been tipping-toeing around the real issues that are bothering you, right? She'll be confused at anything. She might even still call you jealous, so you have to be patient, right? But anyway, replace assumptions with the best case. Why is this best case scenario? Best case scenario is that you're not bothered about that person. Never, ever show up or present as you're bothered about another man. Never, ever present that way. I know you're a human being. You feel what you feel or anything, whatever, but don't do that to yourself. Try not to mention another man. Right? There's some women that are terrible with talking about their ex and anything. Oh, my ex they might do things like that. Don't bite into that, okay? She knows what to do. Once you don't bite into it, she knows exactly what to do. But if you engage it and you start to act butthurt about, she's talking about her ex, and you're complaining, you're whining like a little bitch in the house because she talked about her ex, it's going to multiply. Remember, they multiply everything. Okay. Is it inappropriate? No, it depends on what else is going on. Maybe it's just in passing or something like that. I don't know. If it's like a recurring thing, it's okay to say one time, like, babe, why you keep talking about your ex? I don't want to hear about your freaking ex. You could say that and keep it moving. But if you sit down there and you keep arguing about that issue, and then it's now connected, because remember, women connect everything. They're now connected to the in-laws, to your sister, to the money, how she bought Gucci bag yesterday. But you can't fight. That's not the kind of battle you are designed to fight. You're supposed to protect everybody, not end up in some kind of chaotic conversation that has no directions. You're supposed to bring it back to direction. That's your role. So if you're not able to bring such conversations back to direction, it's no wonder she can't respect you. She will struggle. No, she should just respect. Good luck. Best of luck to you. She just because she's a woman, she should just respect a man.
Oh, beauty.
Yeah, you haven't seen anything yet. Anyway, let's go to number 4. Number 4 is quite similar to number 2, but invite, don't insist for collaboration. This has to do with the finances thing, you know. A lot of the vibe around even the way you deliver the email sounds like a lot of pushy correction that made a cameo appearance. It just sounds very, very pushy, you know, like you're uptight, like relax, you know, right? What you will probably end up doing is pushing her further and further away. Okay. So instead of pushing your way or the highway, directly or indirectly, use the attitude of invitation. Like you actually have something. Confidence is key in this. You have something of value. So you understand that you don't have to oversell it. Instead, you're making some kind of invitation to an opportunity you have created. So you have to have created an opportunity first in order to invite people into it. What does that have to do with this talk exactly? So you have to think a little bit deeper. Take your time to think a little bit deeper. Create opportunities for her to feel like she's about to miss out. Because you will be making a decision, right? You're not going to be waiting for her forever. So you are creating an opportunity. So for example, she's spending all this money and all this kind of stuff, right? For me, that's one is very simple. My own is very simple. You will have all the money you can spend. You have access to it in a way that I don't have to be a part of it. I will come up with something in that same direction. I will not be attempting to change your spending habit. What I will probably change is you don't have access to the resources that's dear to me in a way that I will have to resent you, right? We'll talk more about that in a minute here. But it's key to understand that you don't want to be using the attitude of pushing your way. You don't want to be perceived that way. You might not mean to quote unquote correct criticism. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that. It's how you deliver it. It's what it makes them feel in the way you deliver it. So it's how I deliver. Yes, that's part of your responsibility, especially if you feel so entitled to the leadership position, right? So even decisions that you want to make as a man, you still need it to come off as a collaboration to a large extent. It's the only way that society works today and beyond. It's the way it works even in the corporate world. It has to have some sense of collaboration going on and not I'm the boss type of, like, come on, like, okay, let me calm down. It needs to feel like it's also their idea, right? You want them in a position where they're actually saying, no, you decide, not you fighting for who's going to decide, okay? So, for example, in this money thing, instead of attacking things that you spend too much, that's coming off as a boss. You spend too much. Okay, it's not even the boss thing. It's about that's going to come off as confrontational, right? We already know that men don't like confrontation, but guess what? Human beings in general, we don't appreciate anything that's confrontational from a romantic partner. Okay. For me, I would have said, hey, I want you to have the freedom to spend all the money you want to spend on the nice things that you like. Babe, you know, I love it. You smell so good. All those perfumes, all those nice things. I love it. But I want you to have the freedom because remember what she's looking for is some kind of freedom. That's what you're looking for. I forgot. You're looking for freedom too, right? A lot of people actually forget about freedom when it comes to this romantic thing, right? They think more, you're looking for freedom. There's enough people saying that on the internet. You're looking for freedom, then stay away from marriage. That's it. That's a misfire because the reality is that we're not talking about freedom. No, there's nobody is putting shaku on people's legs. We're talking about mentally. Nobody is staying with you when they don't feel a sense of freedom. It's only a matter of time. They will dump you. I'm just letting you know right now. So just in case you don't know, it's just if they don't feel a sense of freedom, feelings. We're not talking about real handcuffs on people's hands because that's what they're talking about. Oh, you want freedom? You just want to be able to get out and go out to the clubs anyhow. That's not what anybody's looking for. They want to feel a sense of freedom with you. If they feel that, the last place they want to go is going out clubbing with a bunch of friends that will hate on them anyway. But of course, the first time they feel like they are being smothered. Somebody mentioned that earlier on. Black Diamond mentioned it, of course. The first time they feel a sense they're being smothered and they want a little space, they're supposed to go out. What do you say? You say, hey, you want your freedom to hang out with your friends, Abby. So you overreact. So of course she's going to show you that, well, I can do what I want. I'm an adult. Women that say that to you is because they've lost respect for you. Your issues are bigger than just the club for that night. I'll be the girls trip. The issues are deeper than that. Okay, she simply doesn't want to be around you. She's lost respect for you. If it's a lost, then there's hope because you're the same guy. You just have to now acquire some skills, right? But if you keep perpetuating it, yes, you can break it to a point of no return. All right, so I don't know how club came into that, but the point is that don't be the needy person. So let's go to tip number 5. Speaking of neediness, shift from neediness to valuing freedom. I'm just going to read this and then we'll call it today. Okay. Neediness often manifests as over explaining. Shalaye, defending, or overly pursuing validation, right? Now keep in mind, but her too, she's defensive, but I don't have any experience of her complaining. Maybe she does to somebody else, but I don't have any experience of that, right? But if she's complaining to somebody else, I hope they would tell her the same thing, like, hey, so what do you want to do? You want to fix it? All right, so let's get to some work and let's fix it. Okay. So, but over pursuing of validation, which is what we all do when we narrate these stories, instead of looking for reassurance or validation, lean into creating a space that feels secure and expansive. Expansive meaning they don't feel like they're joking, like they feel like they can push like this, there's space like that, and it's like, okay, come to me, right? That's attraction. That's attraction. At the end of the day, emotions are going to be a major driving force here. Attraction. They need to feel attracted to you. If you force them to stay with you and they're not attracted to you, it's a matter of time. Demonstrate that you are secure in your value. Attraction is not always about sex. Okay. Sex can only last for so long. I know some of you think you will keep having sex at the age of 86. Good luck. But the point here is that you can feel a sense of attraction to your partner even though both of you are 86 and 90 years old. So that type of attraction is what I'm talking about. That person just wants to be around you and they allow you to penetrate everything spiritually, physically, mental. You get the gist, right? You get the point? Yes. Demonstrate that you're secure in your value and provide her the freedom to come closer at our own pace. This is how you do it, okay? This non-pressuring stance builds intrigue and attraction. So let's say, for example, when you said, who's that butt ugly guy that you were talking to? And she goes, a butt ugly guy, right? It's just gonna create like some kind of reaction like that. And you're like, yeah, that butt ugly guy, like, oh, you're jealous. So what do you do with that? What if she says you're jealous and insecure, right? What do most people do? They overreact. I'm not jealous, I'm not insecure. Instead, where's Chidima? Chidima would have gotten this. What do you mean? Tell me more. What do you mean I'm jealous? Right? It's an opportunity to just expand the conversation in a light-weighted way that doesn't make people feel like they want to run away from you. Right? You're jealous. Okay, I'm jealous. You like it? You like what you see? You like what you see? Let me show you what this jealous thing can do. Right? Relax is the point. Relax. Everything doesn't have to be so serious. The only major thing that seems major here in this story is the fact that she spent a lot of money. Divide your money up before she gets to the point to access it to spend it on stuff like that. And then she has the freedom. Because remember, it's a freedom. There's a sense of freedom she needs. Then she has the freedom to spend it how she wants, right? And don't be attached to, oh, this is how we're supposed to, this is how some other people do their financing. Attachment also tend to work against attraction. Okay, so if you're too attached to ideologies, it will work against attraction. And if you relax and release yourself from that, she might even yield back to you and say, babe, you're better with money. Help us with this. Babe, I feel like I've been spending too much. Can you please keep this money for me? Those are the kind of conversations you should be having. Not, let me correct you right now. Stop spending money like that. Listen, there are times that may be necessary. Let's say she sold the house you live in and she gambled with it. Your problem is deeper than the conversation at that point, obviously. But if it's just the way I'm looking at right now, you can solve that issue by having at least 3 accounts within the family. There's her account, there's your account, and there's a joint account for everybody's stuff. And you cannot buy shoes from the joint account to maintain the family now. And if she still dips and go and buy shoe from the joint account with the family, she might need rehab. Just you being a correctional officer is not going to work. She needs something else. That issue is deeper than you trying to correct as a man, as a traditional man, as per a traditional man. That's not going to work. What's still going to work is to understand what is valuable to this person. What is it that they're looking for exactly? And how can you replace that value with something even better, with a better opportunity? That takes time. Exactly. It takes time. You have to process that. You have to be intentional about how you relate with a romantic partner, especially because remember, you are the first person they want to disrespect once they don't feel right. Because why? Because you're having sex. Okay? Sorry. That's just how it works. But you actually have more power than you realize. You have more power than you realize. All right. I'm going to end the session like that. Hopefully, you've been enlightened. Shout out to Gracious Greatness who came in last minute. A quick recap: transform silence into presence. 2, reframe corrections into value, power being the beholder. Number 3, replace assumptions with your best case scenario. Assume the best case scenario and reframe your mind, renew your mind. Stop operating from a place of the world is about to end, because it won't end. If your marriage ends, the world will not end, I promise you. Okay. Number 4, invite, don't insist, for collaboration. And yes, foster collaboration always. A sense of it. You're leading. Remember, you're the one fostering the collaboration, so you are still leading. All right. Shift from neediness to valuing freedom. Freedom is key. A sense of it. They need to feel like the space for them to be themselves. If they can't be themselves around you, they will find other people, other men, yes, potentially, to be themselves around. They will feel free. How many of you are watching BMF on Stars? Anybody watching BMF with us on Stars? My wife and I were in the middle of BMF. I'm about to go upstairs. Oh, I think actually we caught up yesterday, so we have to find something else to watch. All right. Anybody else watching BMFs? Let me see. Gracious Grace said, "Greetings, everybody. Waiting happen for this night. Oh yeah, I go use account to hold accountable." Anyway, anybody watching BMF? There's a story in there. There's a story of the father of the 2 gentlemen drug dealers. The relationship between their parents. I think they ended up filing for divorce. But it's a make-believe story, but it's real. It's real. It's happened like that. A person, empty nesters type of situation, still have a young baby, but she fell in love with high school sweetheart, and then she fell on the bola first before her sense corrected back. She fell on the bola first, So yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications. Me, I will go and rest though. Okay. These videos are here for you to revisit, watch over and over again. There's a lot of stuff being said that you need to hear a couple of times in order to really master this in a way that works for you. Okay. So please revisit some of this video, but more importantly, a favor to your boy, please help me share. Help me share. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this whole thing this week. Hopefully you've been enlightened and educated. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Hey Prestige fam, show some love to the video. Hit like, subscribe, and share. Are you in Europe, America, and struggling in your relationship? From argument to abuse and trust issues, we're here to help.
Lola and I founded Prestige Marriage Academy to transform your story. With 20 years of friendship, 17 years of marriage, experience with navigating the ups and downs of marriage, and personalized coaching, includes 24/7 support. Ignorance is expensive. WhatsApp us at +1 732 305 8577 to book a free discovery session today and take charge now.
Don't wing it.
Join us in creating the love life you deserve.